Today, we are diving into something that is such a hot topic. You can always count on me to bring you the hot topics. This is something that is very controversial, and it is something that I have had many conversations. I don't argue, but people have argued at me about my beliefs on this topic because these are some of the questions that you need to start asking yourself as a neurodiversity affirming therapist. Okay. So today we are talking about when it comes to sensory sensitivities, is that something that we should desensitize or is that something we should accommodate? Okay. And we're going to be diving into a lot today. We're going to talk about what is the difference between the two. And then we're going to talk about, when is it okay to work on desensitization? We're going to talk about when is it better to accommodate kids and how can we do this in a neurodiversity affirming way? That's really the goal of this conversation, is how can we all get on board and do this in a neurodiversity affirming way? So first of all, let's talk about desensitization. Desensitization is when we slowly expose a child, and of course it could be a person, but we're just talking about kids today. Desensitization is when we slowly expose a type of sensory input to a child repeatedly over time with the goal of reducing their sensitivity to that. So, for example, it might be if a child's really sensitive to noise, it might be gradually exposing them to different noises and louder noises. It could be if it's something food related, it could be gradually, changing the texture of the food that they're comfortable with or the type of food in order to try to get them to eat more foods. Whereas an accommodation is in just adjusting the environment or the expectations in order to support those sensory needs. So, for example, go back to that loud noise example. If we have a child who's sensitive to loud noises, desensitization would work toward getting them to tolerate more loud noises. Accommodating them would be giving them headphones, giving them a quiet space, allowing to take a break from the busy place that they are at whenever they need it. Okay. And that is something that brings up a really important question, though, because oftentimes people have the same question, which is, but this is affecting their day-to-day life. This is a safety concern. This is a health concern. So we're going to talk about those as well. So first, let's talk about what the problem is when we force desensitization. Okay, because in general, whereas there are a lot of people who are for desensitization, that is just not a practice that I am for, because I just think that it's often not done in a neurodiversity affirming way. Okay. But we're not going to make this black or white. We're not just going to say, no, never, it's bad, don't do it. We're going to talk about when are times when it might be something that you will do or need to do and how to do that in a more neurodiversity affirming way as well. Okay. But when desensitization is done without the consent of the child, or it's done in a way that is not enjoyable for the child, it can lead to trauma. It can be very traumatic for them. And instead of teaching them to actually better process the input, it's just teaching them to better hide their discomfort. It's teaching them to mask their discomfort. So it doesn't actually get any easier. It's just their ability to cover up the fact that it's so uncomfortable for them is what they get better at doing. Okay, which is really sad to think about, that we are just teaching kids to mask. So we've heard autistic adults say time and time again that the therapies they've had in the past that focused on just, tolerating input has been very overwhelming, has been harmful, has led to trauma in their lives. I had this boy who would come in here to the clinic, and he went to another therapy as well. And in that therapy, they were working on desensitizing him to touch. And he would go into that session and they would just present him with different textures, like sticky, wet, things that he just absolutely hated. And he would just cry the entire session. Okay, what good is that doing for this little boy? I can't see any good that is doing for him. Okay, yet when he was in our sessions, he was a lot more comfortable. He was willing to explore different things just because the environment was supportive, the person was supportive, he was well regulated. So a lot of times kids might learn that stuff on their own, to go explore new, to go explore different. If they're in a supportive environment, that might be something that they naturally do. And it's not something that needs to be forced. Okay, so sometimes that is something that you will just see change over time because kids are feeling more supported, and then therefore you are seeing them be more willing to explore new and different types of sensory input. So accommodations in general are massively important for autistic people. And you guys know this, if you've been watching this show, especially, that this should be part of an autistic person's everyday life. And this is part of our duty as a society to be more inclusive in order to, by accommodating those who have different needs than us. So that might mean that a child is getting to have breaks throughout the day where they can get up and move around instead of being forced to sit still. That might mean that they can wear their hat in class, or they can wear their hood in class because it helps to block out the brightness of the classroom lights. And it could be something that's just so simple. And a lot of times people just don't want to do it because they say, I can't make the exception for that person and not for anyone else. And it's like, okay, well then let's accommodate everyone who has a sensory difference or who has a need that needs to be accommodated, but especially the people who, have a disability. That is our job, to accommodate them, to make the world a more comfortable and inclusive place for them. Okay, so let's talk about if desensitization can ever be helpful or when it should be used. So I'm going to say in 2 scenarios that this would get my stamp of approval. And again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying like this is the only way to do it. I'm just sharing, after working with thousands of autistic children over the past 15 years and train lots of therapists and professionals and work with lots of families. Most importantly, had many conversations with autistic adults. These are opinions that I've formed, okay? I'm not saying like this is the only right answer. It's just, this is my opinion based on my experience, okay? So number 1, if it's an activity that is fun for the child and they're choosing to participate in it. Easy, okay? Choosing to participate does not mean we are giving them a board of a visual schedule saying, first we're going to put our hands in the wet spaghetti and then we can go on the swing, okay? Just because maybe a child is following your schedule, sorry, that's a weird example. Just because a child is following your schedule doesn't mean that they're going to enjoy doing it. They very well could feel pressured to do it, even if you're not pressuring them at all with your words. Them just seeing that and knowing, okay, well, it's my job to comply with this expectation that was put upon me in order to get the thing that I really want to do. That is not the same as a child choosing to do it. Okay, I'm talking about you go into a room and there are lots of different opportunities and games and toys available for a child, and we are going to follow them to what it is that they want to do. It is not forcing them to do anything that they don't want to do. Okay, so number 1, it is something that they are choosing to do and something that is fun for them. And we will have kids, like I said, who start to change and start to explore more just because they're provided a more supportive environment. You might have kids who feel really insecure with their feet off the ground, but then the more that they are around you and in a supportive environment, and maybe like you're hanging the swing and you just let them sit on the swing whenever they want to, not when they're being forced, and their feet are touching the ground. And then maybe eventually they're going to start to pick their feet up off the ground, right? But it is just about following their lead, making sure that they're comfortable. And I wouldn't go in designing therapy sessions with the goal of desensitizing them. I would just make the goal whatever your other goals are. And then if that happens in the process because it's fun for them and it's something that they want to do and they are consenting to do, then it happens. Okay. So number 2, things regarding safety and health. I understand, I'm a parent, okay? I have 5 children. I understand the importance of putting up boundaries in order to keep your kids safe and healthy, okay? But here's an example of something that we wouldn't want to do. Brushing teeth. Lots of autistic kids hate brushing teeth, okay? So what we don't want to do is force it. We don't want to say, okay, I'm going to put the timer on and then I'm going to hold you down and then I'm going to brush your teeth. And then and I know that happens a lot. Okay. And no judgment, by the way, if that's what you have learned to do, because you got to do what you got to do. We're just going to talk about how we can make that easier. Okay. But a lot of times it becomes something like where we're forcing kids to do it. And I've done this and had these experiences with my own kids. Like I said, I have 5 kids. I've learned this stuff the hard way. And what I have learned is that you really want to teach a kid to brush their teeth. It needs to be a positive experience that they are finding joy in. So the funniest thing happens now. Our 4th child, he sees his older brothers brushing their teeth every night. Guess what he wants to do? He will cry. He will pound on that bathroom door if he cannot get in on that, because he wants to be part of that, because everyone else is doing it and it looks like they're having fun and they've got their electric toothbrushes and he wants it. Okay. So now he is almost 2 and he is loving brushing his teeth because it was something that he was not forced to do. It was something that we gave him a lot of autonomy over, and that starts by a child getting maybe to pick what toothbrush they want and then just being able to hold it and then just being able to play around with it. And maybe we're going to sing a song and we're going to tickle their mouth. Like maybe we're going to sing whatever a favorite song is and we're going to tease them. Like here it comes. Zzz, zzz. And if they're laughing, great. If they are backing away or they're being resistant, we're not ready for that step yet. Okay, so you want to look for signs that the child is enjoying it and they're getting pleasure in that activity. And that's when you want to continue it, versus you see signs of resistance or any type of overwhelm. That's when you want to pull back and you want to go to one step below. Okay, so virtually anything can be turned into something that would be fun and enjoyable for a child if we're just presenting it to them the right way. And the problem here is that we have such high expectations, or maybe we have pressure on ourselves. I'm a parent. My job is to keep my kid healthy. That's a lot of pressure, right? Everyone else's kid is doing it. My kid isn't doing it. That's a lot of pressure and guilt that you might feel, right? But we have to realize, we have to be on our own timelines. We have to do what we can when we can do it. We have to meet our kids where they are instead of just forcing them to take 10 steps at once. It's just baby steps. Okay. So I think that does make a difference. Okay. But the one thing I just want you to think about as we close out this conversation is, what is one sensory sensitivity you have? What is one thing that absolutely just gives you the ick, just the thought of it? Right? A lot of people would say nails on a chalkboard. Personally, for me, one thing I hate is balloons. The smell, the touch, the taste, the sound when they rub together. Okay, I hate balloons. I have also told this story before. You may have heard it, where I hate itchy sweaters. The shirt I'm wearing right now feels like butter, I will tell you. Okay, I hate clothes that are itchy. And when I was filming my course, I wanted a navy sweater. I looked everywhere. I'm in Los Angeles. Do you know how many malls and shops are in Los Angeles? I was searching for months looking for this blue sweater. I was like, I got to find a navy sweater. I just had this idea in my mind that I was going to wear a navy sweater. By the way, it was July. Okay. Hence why there are no sweaters in Los Angeles in July. So I finally found one. I think it was cashmere and wool. Totally overpriced, by the way. Itchy as can be. I tried it on in the waiting room, in the dressing room, and I thought, this is torture, but it's the only one I can find, and I'm going to buy it, even though it is massively overpriced, because I'm filming this weekend, and now I'm down to the wire. I have no other options. So what I did is I packed that because we were going away to film. And then I also packed a long sleeve shirt, really similar to the one I'm wearing, because it was really thin and soft to wear underneath it, just in case. I was like, in case I can't wear the sweater, at least I could put the long sleeve shirt under it. So what happened is, the day of the filming, I got ready as much as I possibly could without putting the sweater on. I did my hair and my makeup, and I put the sweater on at the very end. Within 2 minutes, I was huffing and puffing, running back to the room to change. It was that much torture to my body. I was like, I'm so dysregulated. I cannot spend the next 2 days filming in this sweater. So I went and I put on my long sleeve shirt underneath, and then I put the sweater on top. And by the way, that was also torture because this location did not have air conditioning. And again, this is summertime in Los Angeles, and I was so hot. But being hot and uncomfortable was better to me than being itchy. So the thing is that over the years, I've actually tried to train myself to be desensitized so that I could wear clothes I want to wear, because around wintertime, fall time, there's so many cute sweaters out and I want to wear those sweaters. So there would be times when I would be like, you know what, this one is just mildly itchy. I'm just going to buy this one. And then maybe eventually I'll be able to work up to the itchier sweaters. And guess what would happen? I would buy that mildly itchy sweater. It would sit in my closet. My eyes would just, I'd throw daggers at it with my eyes every time I saw it because it made me so mad that I bought it and I can't wear it. And then eventually I would donate it. So if you came up to me and you said, I will give you $1,000 to wear that sweater all week, I don't know if I could take that. I mean, I would probably try, I'm not going to lie, but it would be terrible. I wouldn't say, okay, by the end of the week, I'm going to enjoy wearing the sweater. It's just never going to happen. Okay, so the reason I bring this up is because I think the best way for us to relate to what our kids are going through is for you to put yourself in that position of what is something that bothers me so much and it's just like torture for my sensory system. And then imagine someone just said to you, okay, well, we're going to work toward you being able to tolerate that because it's going to make your life so much better, as opposed to we're just going to accommodate that forever, right? Like now I don't buy itchy sweaters. Problem solved, right? So that's something we really need to think about. So hope that this episode got the wheel spinning in your head. So much to think about in terms of this topic. And like I said, it is very controversial because there still are a lot of therapists out there, and a primary approach to their therapy is desensitization, and it's not always done in a nice way. Okay, so for those of you who do work on that, but you do it in a way that's fun and child-led and enjoyable, that is something that, like, to me, makes more sense than forcing it on a child, causing trauma, causing harm, causing them to distrust adults who are around them, causing them to learn to mask, all of these other things that we talked about today. Okay, so I hope that was something new that you learned. If you want to learn so much more about a child's sensory system, check out our trainings in the NeuroAffirm Therapy Academy. If you're a professional working with autistic kids, we'd love to see you in there. We also have some parents who have slipped through the cracks, because we always get parents saying, can I join this group too? And if you feel like that's a place for you to learn, we're not going to not let you come in because you're a parent. If it's a crowd that you want to be around, which I will say it is an incredible crowd of neurodiversity affirming people, we would love to have you in there. I will put the link below and you can check it out to learn more. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. Till next time.